I heard the crunch of gravel first. That sharp, entitled stomp that only one person in our entire HOA could produce. I was kneeling in my front yard, trimming the lavender bushes I'd spent months nurturing, when her voice sliced through the quiet morning like a malfunctioning car alarm. "This is not HOA compliant." I didn't look up right away, mostly because I already knew the sight I'd see. Karen, arms crossed, sunglasses pushed so high on her forehead they were practically floating. HOA binder clutched like a holy book. Her stance alone radiated the confidence of someone who once threatened to sue a mailbox. I finally stood. "Morning to you too, Karen." She marched closer, heels stabbing the soil as if punishing the earth itself. "These plants," she pointed at my garden with two aggressive fingers, "are unauthorized growth. The HOA requires uniform landscaping. Uniform, as in the exact same shrubs everyone else has." I glanced at my lavender, basil, and tomato plants. "They're just a garden, not a rebellion." Karen's nostrils flared. "You were warned." That was the first I'd heard of any warning, but arguing with her was like arguing with a malfunctioning chatbot that only outputs HOA violations. Before I could reply, she snapped a photo with her phone. Right up close, inches from the petals, as if the flowers were suspects in a crime scene. "Expect a fine," she hissed, spinning around and stomping back toward her house. I exhaled slowly. This was routine. Annoying, ridiculous, but routine. Or so I thought. That evening, I stepped outside to water the garden and froze. My lavender was gone. My basil ripped out. Half the tomato bed, uprooted and tossed aside like trash. The soil lay scattered. The plants crushed. Stems snapped clean in half. It looked like a tiny tornado had hit only my property. My chest tightened as I crouched down, touching the broken remains. Someone had destroyed everything. Carefully, deliberately, one plant at a time. My security camera blinked red from the porch. I swallowed hard and walked back inside, opened the footage, and felt my stomach drop. There she was, in broad daylight, HOA Karen herself, ripping out my garden while humming like she was enjoying an afternoon chore. She even wiped her hands on her HOA-issued vest afterward. I stared at the footage, anger simmering under my skin. She had crossed every line imaginable. But surprisingly, under the anger, there was a spark of something else. A plan. A very quiet, very patient, very delicious kind of plan. And that was the moment I decided. If Karen wanted a war over plants, she was going to get one. But not the kind she expected. The next morning, I walked outside with the calm determination of someone who had finally stopped playing defense. The sun was barely up, painting the street gold, but my mind was already 10 steps ahead. Karen was going to regret touching my garden, and I wasn't talking about petty revenge. I wanted something smarter, quieter, something that wouldn't break a single HOA rule, but would break her. I started by cleaning up the destruction. Neighbors passed by, offering sympathetic looks, but no one asked questions. They knew better. HOA drama travels faster than Wi-Fi in our neighborhood, and everyone already suspected the culprit. As I gathered broken stems into a pile, I heard the familiar chirp of Karen's garage door opening. She strutted out with her morning smoothie, green of course, like it was squeezed from pure self-righteousness, and gave me a smug, satisfied smile. "Cleaning up the mess?" she asked sweetly. I forced a polite smile. "Yep, just getting ready to plant something new." Her forehead twitched. "New? You mean HOA-approved shrubs?" "Oh yeah," I said, keeping my voice light. "Totally HOA approved." I didn't specify which HOA though. That was important. She narrowed her eyes but walked on, probably off to file complaints against a cloud shaped suspiciously like a dragon. The moment she disappeared, I went to the garage and pulled out the small brown envelope I'd ordered months ago, but never used. Night-blooming trumpet flowers. Gorgeous, rare, fast-growing, and, according to every gardening site, extremely fragrant. Not dangerous, not toxic, nothing illegal. Just intensely, overwhelmingly fragrant. Especially at night. Especially when planted close to air vents. Especially when watered generously. I smiled. By evening, the garden bed was reborn. I had planted normal, boring, perfectly HOA-compliant shrubs in the front, the ones Karen loved so much, and hidden the special plants behind them. tucked neatly along the property line we happened to share. They'd stay invisible until they grew tall, wide, and gloriously fragrant, just the way nature intended. When the sun dipped below the roofs, I stood back and admired my work. My yard looked harmless, innocent, boring enough to make Karen feel victorious. Perfect. As I packed up my tools, I noticed Karen across the street watching me from behind her curtains, the white fabric glowing as she pressed her face against it, phone in hand like she was ready to call the police if I so much as planted a rebellious dandelion. "Enjoy the peace while it lasts," I whispered, because tonight was the first night my secret garden would begin to grow. And by the time Karen realized what I'd done, it would be far too late to stop it. The first sign arrived 3 nights later, soft, subtle, almost delicate. A breeze drifted across my yard, carrying a faint sweetness that made me pause mid-step. The night-blooming flowers had opened. Their petals glowed faintly under the porch light, releasing a scent that was honestly incredible. Light, floral, calming. But then I remembered what the reviews said. Beautiful, but extremely potent. Only plant away from windows. I smiled, because I knew exactly where Karen had all her windows and vents. By midnight, I was already tucked in bed when it happened. Bang, bang, bang. The kind of door pounding that came with pure, unfiltered outrage. I groaned, dragged myself up and opened the door. And there she was. Karen, hair frizzy, bathrobe crooked, eyes watering, nose red. She looked like she'd been personally attacked by a bouquet. "What?" I began, but she shoved her phone in my face. "What is this?" she screeched. The smell hit me then, not from my garden, but from her. Her entire body was soaked in the heavy perfume of the night blooms, like she'd been wrestling with them in a cloud of floral chaos. I tried very hard not to smile. "What is what?" I asked, squinting at her screen. The video showed her bedroom, fogged, like actual visible haze from the fragrance. Her smart home air purifier blinked red in defeat. "My eyes are burning. My house smells like a perfume factory exploded. My husband is sneezing so hard he almost passed out." I crossed my arms. "Sounds like allergies." "Don't you dare!" Her voice cracked. "What do you think caused it?" I asked innocently. "The shrubs?" She glared at me, hard. "I know you planted something. I can smell it on my pillow, on my clothes. My dog smells like it." Behind her, the poor golden retriever gave a tiny sneeze. Karen threw her hands up. "This violates at least 10 HOA rules." "Oh?" I tilted my head. "Which ones?" "My plants are HOA compliant." I checked. Twice. "In your binder." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again, like a Wi-Fi router trying to reconnect. She finally hissed, "I'll take this to the board. And when they find out what you've done," I stopped her with a slow, calm smile. "Karen, you destroyed my garden. I replaced it with approved plants. If nature wants to gift you with a powerful, floral experience every night," I shrugged. "That's between you and nature." Her eye twitched so violently I thought she might short-circuit. She stormed off, muttering threats, sneezes echoing behind her. But the real chaos began the next morning. It started with the neighborhood group chat, then the HOA alert, then Karen's husband stumbling into the street demanding someone turn off the smell. And by noon, the entire cul-de-sac was gathered in front of our houses, arguing, complaining, sniffing the air, pointing fingers. And that's when Karen stepped forward with her final dramatic announcement. "This community is under attack, and I know exactly who's responsible." The crowd turned toward me, and I just smiled, because they had no idea what was coming next. The emergency HOA meeting was held in the clubhouse, a beige, windowless room that always smelled like old carpet and forced politeness. But tonight, it smelled different. It smelled like me, specifically, like the night bloom fragrance that had now drifted across half the neighborhood. People walked in rubbing their eyes, fanning themselves with HOA pamphlets, and muttering things like, "Why does it smell like prom night in here? My allergies are doing parkour. Whose idea was it to hold this indoors?" Karen sat at the front table like a general preparing for battle. She had tissues stuffed up each nostril and a bottle of nasal spray sitting next to her name tag. Her eyes were red, puffy, and very determined. The HOA president, Mr. Clark, tapped the microphone. "We're here to discuss the fragrance incident affecting multiple homes." Karen shot up. "It's him!" She pointed at me with the force of a courtroom accusation. "He planted illegal, weaponized plants." A few board members blinked at the word weaponized. One guy actually wrote it down. I stayed calm, leaning back in my folding chair. All my plants are HOA approved, I said. I checked the bylaws. Page 14, subsection B. I even highlighted it for convenience. Karen slammed her binder open. But the smell, it's toxic. A neighbor raised his hand. Actually, Google says it's non-toxic, just strong. Another woman chimed in. My husband said it smells romantic. He hasn't called anything romantic since 2009. Karen gasped like someone had kicked her HOA binder off a cliff. Are you all insane? Our homes smell like a perfume commercial. Someone from the back mumbled, could be worse, could smell like fertilizer. The room erupted into side whispers. Karen's face went tomato red. Order! Mr. Clark smacked his clipboard. We need evidence. Perfect. I pulled out my phone and played the security footage. The clip of Karen tearing apart my garden, humming while she did it, ripping out plants like she was auditioning for a villain role. Silence. Pin drop silence. Even the night bloom scent took a respectful pause. Finally, Mr. Clark cleared his throat. So, Karen destroyed your garden first? Karen froze. I was enforcing. I thought that garden was a hazard. To who? Someone asked. To my sense of order. A few neighbors chuckled. Even the board couldn't hide their amusement. Mr. Clark sighed. Karen, you violated HOA policy. There's no rule against these plants. They're compliant. You, however, he slid a form across the table. This is a notice of violation. And a fine. Her jaw dropped so far it nearly escaped her face. A fine? Me? You destroyed property, he said firmly. On camera. For the first time ever, Karen was speechless. She grabbed her tissue box, binder, and pride, stuffed them all under her arms, and stormed out of the clubhouse, still smelling like a walking flower bomb. Speechless, she grabbed her tissue box, binder, and pride, stuffed them all under her arms, and stormed out of the clubhouse, still smelling like a walking flower bomb. Over the next week, the flowers reached full bloom. Their scent softened, spreading in a calm, warm way that made evenings feel strangely calm. People came by to ask what I planted. Some wanted cuttings. Someone even suggested a community blooming night. And as for Karen, well, she did something no one expected. She planted her own garden. Small, controlled, probably measured with a ruler, but real. She hasn't spoken to me directly since, though she once nodded, the tiniest nod, while watering her plants. Maybe she learned something, maybe she didn't, but every night, when the flowers open and the air fills with that sweet, lingering scent, I smile. Because my revenge wasn't loud, or violent, or destructive. It was just nature, doing what nature does best. And honestly, it smelled like victory. If this story hit home for you, tap like. It's the simplest way to stand with anyone who's ever been pushed too far. Subscribe to Karen Edition so you never miss another moment where ordinary people take justice into their own hands. And tell me in the comments, if you were in my shoes, how would you have handled it?